Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and a special welcome if you're joining us for the first time, particularly if you're based in the UK where we've just entered our third lockdown, and I know this is an incredibly difficult time for an awful lot of people out there. And I say that with a fair degree of British understatement. Well, if you're joining us here, we provide a respite from the real world. The thing about Cracking the Cryptic is that the puzzles we showcase are always actually solvable. The modus operandi is very simple. We scour the globe, basically, for the very best in Sudoku and logic problems. We give you a daily chance to play those problems, and then if you can't do them, you can watch a video where we try and solve the problems for you. So we try and do that live, so you get to see all of the grimaces, all of the mistakes, but yeah, that's how it works. So now today's puzzle on the screen is by a brand new setter to the channel. It's by a setter called jetalix, and it's called quadruples, and you can see that's because of these quadruple type clues all over the grid, and this is a type of Sudoku I absolutely love, so I'm looking forward to trying this. And indeed the testing reports, well, they say two things. Firstly, this is a very brilliant puzzle. Secondly, it's not too difficult, so if you are new to the channel and you fancy cutting your teeth on a Sudoku variant for the first time, this might be a very good puzzle to do that with. Oh yeah, quick mention of yesterday's video in which we showcased a puzzle about the Mandalorian, and a big shout out to Sven Neumann, our programmer, who has managed somehow to include the graphics of the Mandalorian's helmet in the puzzle that you could play. I mean, this is quite beautiful. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that. Unfortunately, it wasn't ready by the time I did the video, but what a job this is. Anyway, this is something we hope we may be able to do more of in the future. Oh, and yeah, also, so for those of you who asked why I didn't play the Mandalorian theme on the guitar for yesterday's video, it's because I left myself not enough time. I started thinking about that at about 7 o'clock last night, and once I'd sort of thought about the music and looked at the music, I realised I wasn't going to be able to learn it in the 20 minutes that I had. So maybe in a future edition you might get to hear my attempt. Anyway, what else to mention? Oh, if you enjoy the content, do check out what we've got over on Patreon. We publish a lot of extra content there. At the moment there's an enormous video, literally enormous, over 3 hours long, going through last month's Sudoku puzzle hunt, which is well worth a look. And of course we have our January monthly bonus puzzle out at the moment as well, and Mark is reading out the names of everybody who solves that correctly. So if you've submitted your correct solution in the last 24 hours, watch the video later and you'll hear Mark read out your name, hopefully. Now with all that, let's get on to this puzzle. What are the rules? Very simple today. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Oh, lost my microphone. Hopefully that won't make too much of a big noise. Digits in circles must be found on one of the 4 cells touched by the circle. So what that means is in those 4 cells there, we must find the digits 2, 5 and 7. In these 4 cells, we must find the digits 1, 2, 7 and 9. So in fact, we know exactly what the composition of those 4 cells is, even though we don't know the order of the digits. We know exactly what digits go into those 4 cells, and etc. And then we've also got some thermometers, some rather miserly thermometers, to be honest, and along thermometers digits must increase from the bulb end. So that means whatever we put in the bulb end of the thermometer must be lower than the next cell. So it's a bit like a mercury rising up the thermometer. Now of course most thermometers we see in Sudoku are many cells long. These are exactly 2 cells long in each case. So in fact we can view these a bit like inequality symbols. We simply know that this cell is lower than this cell is higher than this cell, etc. So do have a go. The way to play is very simple. You click the link you'll find in the YouTube description under the video, and with that I get to play. Let's get cracking and see how we go with this puzzle by jetalix. Now what I tend to do with these puzzles, quadruple puzzles, is I look for equivalences between clues. So my eyes are immediately drawn actually to these 2 clues, because if we look at the digits in both of these circles, the 1 and the 9 are common to both of the quadruples. Now that's incredibly important. In fact, let's start off by just highlighting all of the options, and then we'll talk about why it's important. So how many ones are there in row 4 of this Sudoku? If we looked at the finished solution, how many ones would we find? Well, it's not a trick question. A knowledge bomb from cracking the cryptic. The answer is 1. There is exactly 1 1 in this row. There is exactly 1 1 in this row. So that means that if we know there's 1 1 in these 4 cells and 1 1 in those 4 cells, there cannot be any more 1s in row 4 and row 5. So that there cannot be 1s in any of those cells. Otherwise there will be 3 1s in the 2 rows, and that's impossible. Now, so this gives a bit of an indication as to where we need to look. Therefore, we need to look in these 3 squares, because we know these 3 squares must contain a 1 and a 9. Another way of thinking about that, which is sometimes some people find it easier, some people find it harder, is that if we know there's a 1 and a 9 in those 4 squares, we know these 3 squares don't have 1 and 9 in them. Similarly, these 3 squares don't have 1 and 9 in them. So where do the 1 and 9 go? In row 6 of the grid, they must be in these cells here. And you can see that although the 9 must be in one of those 2 positions, because we know there's a 9 in one of those 4 cells, the 1 can't be in these squares, because these squares are exactly 5, 6, 7 and 9, so the 1 goes here. And that might be important. Well, I can see a few things this means. Let's actually tidy up our pencil marking first. We know these squares are 5, 6, 7 and 9. We know that the 9 is in the bottom of that quadruple. But this 1 is looking up at this quadruple here, and it's forcing the 1 over onto the right hand side of it. So the 1, 4, 6, 8 we can add to this box. We know that the 1 is not here. So the 1 in box 8 now by Sudoku has to be in one of those 3 squares. Be careful there, it doesn't have to be in this quadruple. It could still be here, and the 1 in the quadruple could be on the right hand side there in box 9. So we don't actually know where it lives yet in box 8. Okay, so we're off and running. We've got a digit. And now what we should do, so again, I'm scanning across there, I'm seeing no correspondence at all between 257 and 348. So that is 2 things. It's annoying and useless. 8, look, is common in both of these. So again, we can ask the question, where does 8 therefore go in column 9 of the grid? It can't be there, it can't be there. It must therefore be in one of these 3 squares. And in fact, this clue is telling us it's in one of those 4 squares as well. So we now know it's locked into this domino. So there's an 8 in one of these 2 squares. There's 2, 5. 2 and 5 are in this foursome and this foursome. So we're going to get a 5 in this square, because we can ask this question again. Where do the 2 and 5 go, therefore? We know there's no 2 and 5 in these 3 squares, no 2 and 5 in these 3 squares. So the 2 and the 5 in column 3 have to be in these 3 squares. Well, you can see the 2, therefore, must be in one of those 2 positions. And the 5 simply has to go there, because it cannot go and interrupt and disturb this quadruple. Now the 5, therefore, sees those cells, look, which means there's a 5 in one of these 2 cells, which means there's no 5 in these 2 squares, and there's a 5 in one of those 2 cells. So simply by keeping track of our pencil marks, we're able to sort of deduce a little bit of logic here. 2, 5, can we go further than that? We can't see how to do that. Now, let's look at the bottom of the grid then. We've got a 2 in one of those 4 and a 2 in one of these 4. So again, where does the 2 go in row 9, therefore? It can't be in these 6 cells. It must be in one of those 3 squares, and it's not here. It's not here because we know this cell must be a 1, 3, 5 or 7. So that, in fact, we know where the 2 goes. Look at that. The thermometer comes to our rescue, because we can't put 2 here on the thermometer, because if we put it there, this cell must be lower, and it can't be lower than 1, so it would have to be 1, and that would clash. So in fact, we know that the 2 goes on the bulb, and that's rather pretty in terms of box 5 now. The 2 must be in one of those cells. which places 2 in box 4. Because now, from our earlier logic, we'd ruled 2 out of these 2 cells, and now we've ruled it out of this one as well. So we can actually place it in its foursome. It must go into that cell, and there must be a 2 down here because of the Sudoku implications. Okay, so now where do we look? So we've looked at the I'm going to label up that one because that's a complete quadruple, 2, 3, 5 and 6. I'll label up this one, 1, 3, 5 and 7. Don't think we do know anything about this one yet, do we? So now I'm getting stuck, actually. I wasn't anticipating getting stuck quite this soon. I've only got 4 digits in the grid. So how do we think about this to figure this out? Which clues have I not used? I think I've looked at all of them, maybe only briefly, but 4, 3, 4, 8. Looks like I've looked at this one. 1, 4, 6, 8. Oh, that's vicious. No, this is vicious. Absolutely vicious. Good grief. Okay, we do need to look at this clue. Wow. Okay. Well, this is not a standard use of the quadruple rule, but it is there for all to see. So what we need to think about here is column 6. And perhaps the easiest way to think about this is to think about those 3 squares. Now, these 3 squares cannot be the digits 1, 4, 6 and 8 because we know that those digits are in here in box 2. So if these can't be 1, 4, 6 and 8, where do we put the 1, 4, 6 and 8 in column 6 of the grid? Well, those 4 digits have to occupy 4 of these 6 squares. Now, the issue you're going to have there is with the 4 and the 8. Where do the 4 and the 8 therefore go? Well, they definitely can't be in those 4 squares because we know what these 4 squares are approximately. We know what the options are. So the 4 and the 8 have to go into those 2 squares. Now that looks incredibly nice because now this square cannot be a 2 anymore. And if it can't be a 2, the 2 goes there, which doesn't do very much. It means there's a 2 in one of those 3 cells. Again, we can't put it at the end of the thermometer. If we put the 2 here, we'd have to put a 1 here, but we know the 1 in the box is in one of those cells. So the 2 is in one of 2 places. Now this cell also can't be a 1 now because we know this cell has to be a 4 and an 8. So the 1 is at the bottom of column 6, therefore it's not on the right hand side of the quadruple. Wow. I think that's quite difficult to see that. I don't know, probably the comments will say, no, Simon, you were very slow spotting it, but that did not feel straightforward. Let's just spend a moment more on this clue. 6 as well. We've got to put 6 in this column. We know it's not in those cells, and it's not in any of those 3 squares, so it must be in this domino, which means it's not, therefore, in those squares. So 6 is definitely in one of these 2 positions, which is about as useful as a chocolate teapot by the looks of it. Okay. Now what do we do? So actually now what I'm trying to get my brain to do and sort of rearrange my neurons to do is to compare open flanks of these quadruple clues. So I'm looking up this column, noting that these 3 squares can't be 2, 3, 5 and 6, and I'm therefore noting, for example, that where do 3 and 6 go in this column? They have to be up there somewhere. 1, 2, 7, 9 here. Oh, that's less useful. 1, 2, 7, 9 could be in those squares. 1, 5, 8, 9 here. 1, 5, 8. Yeah, okay, let's do exactly the same trick we did up here with this 2x2. But this time I want to do it on those cells. Because where do the 1, 5, 8 and 9 go in row 6 of the grid? Well, the 1 and the 5 we know where they go, so that's not useful. The 9 indeed, we know it's in that domino, so that's not useful. But the 8 is useful, because if the 8 can't go there or in any of those 4 cells, it must be in one of these 2 squares. Now, the thing is, it can't be in the bulb. If it's in the bulb, this square would have to be 9, but we know the 9 is in one of those 3 positions, so this is not 8. The 8 goes there. Oh dear, that's not actually done anything. 3 in this box. Look, I've not managed to pencil 3 at all, so 3 must be in that domino. Oh, I suppose what this 8 does do, is we now know the composition of those 6 squares. So these squares have got to be 3, 4 and 6 to complete the box. We can't put 6 at the bulb of the thermometer, or this will have to be higher than 6, and it can't be. And we can't put 3 in this cell, because then this cell would have to be lower than 6, which it can't be. Oh, now actually more important than messing about with the thermometer is the fact that if there's a 3, 4, 6 triple in this column, and there is, those 2 squares cannot be 3 and 6. But that's massive. So these must be 2 and 5. Oh, that's huge up here. Look, this is nice now. Right, finally I think we're getting some traction. So if this is a 2, 5 pair, we can't put 2, 5 also into these 2 squares. So these become a 3, 6 pair. I'm just checking whether that does anything on the right before I move on. Right, and then what I've noticed is these 4 squares have to include a 2 and a 5. Well, we know therefore they're going to have to be in those positions, which means there must be a 7 in one of those cells. 2, 5, 3, 6, 3, 6. Is that all we get from this? That is really surprising. That felt like a really big breakthrough. Sorry. 3, 6, 3, 6, 3. Oh, no, hang on. Good Lord. Okay, right, I could have done this a couple of minutes ago, but it's quite difficult to see this. This cell can't be a 3 because it's on the thermometer. And because the bulb is limited to 4, 6 or 8, we can't make this square a 3 because it's most certainly not higher than any of those 3 squares. Now, ordinarily we might miss this, but there's now a 3 locked into one of 2 positions in box 1, and crucially that 3 is in row 1 and row 2, or row 1 or row 2. And look, the 3 in box 3 is also in row 1 or row 2. So again, using the same logic we've done before, how many 3s are there in row 1 in the finished grid? 1. How many 3s are there in row 2 in the finished grid? 1. So the 2 3s that we know exist in these 2 rows in the finished solution are in 2 of those 6 squares. Therefore, they are not in those squares, not in these squares, and not in these squares. So in box 2, where do we put the 3? Well, there's only one option. It has to be here. And that's nice because it's going to place the 2 as well. Oh, it does a few things actually. So look, firstly we displaced a 2 pencil mark when we placed this 3. Look, if I show you. So when I place the 3, I know now this is the 2. That 2 actually is fixing the 2 and the 5 as well. That 5 is fixed back over here by Sudoku doing this. So now we've got 2s and 5s aligning, which means that those 3 squares must include a 2, 5 pair. There's all sorts going on here, actually. There is all sorts going on. Now let's scan down the grid. Oh, there's loads going on. Because where does 5 now go in this quadruple? It must be here. It's the only place it can go. Which means 5 must be in one of those 2 cells. Which means it's aligning. Good grief, there is so much going on. 5 is now Yeah, there's a huge amount going on. This is a 3-5 pair, which means we can eliminate 3 and 5 from this quadruple, and that means we eliminate 7 from this side. So we now know very approximately the order. Look, everything's happening. This is all firing off. 1 7 here means this square is a 6. That fixes stuff over here as well. Let's just tidy that up. That's a 6 now. This is not 6, so we've got a 7-9 pair here, but a 1-7 pair here. So this is 9, this is 7. 7 in box 2's got to go there. That means that's got to be a 9. So this is now a 5-9 pair. This is 3, 4, and 8. But the other thing I've noticed, and I'm just going to come back to it now, I'm just going to try and let's just try and make sure we finish all of the results of this pencil marking. 7 is now over here as well, which means this is a 2, 5, 7 triple. The other thing I noticed was this 5-9 pair and this 2-5 pair are now aligning, which means 5 can't go here, because we've looked at this logic already. How many 5s are there in row 7 and row 8 together? 2. There's 1, there's 2. If I put a 5 here, that's a third 5 in 2 rows of the grid, which is impossible. So this can't be 5, that's 3, that's 5. 3 sees the 3 and the 6. Okay, well that's oh, by Sudoku, therefore that square's a 3, look. By Sudoku, therefore, this square is a 6. This square must be a 4 or an 8 to complete the box. 6 must be in one of those 2 squares. Apologies if you're seeing easy ways of making more progress. I'm not seeing it yet. I'm sure it exists. This puzzle is far too cleverly put together for there not to be something logical to do now. Let's get rid of the pencil marks on the side there. This 2, 5, 7 triple, this is nagging at me. Let's actually pencil mark that properly. That can't be 5. Oh, and look, this is on the thermometer. Gosh, for some reason I wasn't seeing the thermometer there. But this can't be 2, because then that would require a 1 there. So this is 7. And the 5, gosh, I nearly missed this as well, is looking at this quadruple. Now the only place the 5 can now go in this quadruple is here, which displaces the 5 from there. So we get the 5, we get the 2. That's not 2 anymore. Oh, no, better than that. There's a 2 in this quadruple here. So the 2 now must be in one of those 2 squares where it joins its friend the 8. Yes, 8s are in both of these quadruples. That's how I got this pencil mark right at the beginning. Now that is joined by a 2. So this is a 2-8 pair, which means the 4 is on this side of it, but this 2 is seeing that cell. So that must be a 2. We still need 4 and 6. We need 4 and 6 into these 2 squares now, but we've just managed to work out there's a 4 in one of those 2 squares. So we get the 4, we get the 6. We get the 6 at the bottom of the grid. Oh, this 6 is nice, because the 6 being in one of those 2 cells completes this quadruple. We now know this is a 3, 4, 6, 8 quadruple, and we know that the 6 is on the left hand side of it. And oh, in fact, with the 4 here, we know exactly the composition of it. This is 3 and 8, so this is 4 and 6. I'm sure there's a way of disambiguating this. That's not 8 anymore. What is it? I don't know. Oh, but we can do more Sudoku. We've got a 9 here, and we've got to put a 9 in box 3. So the 9 goes there, the 1 goes there. 9 must be in one of those 3 positions now by Sudoku. This row we need 3, 4, 6 and 8. Lovely. 3, 4 and 6 in this column. So that is a naked single. That can only be 8. That fixes the 8 and the 3. That fixes the 3 here. That's the only place the 3 can go in box 1 now. So this square has become a 4 or a 6. And there might be a way of resolving that, but I can't see what it is. These 2 squares are now known, look, because if we look at the column, we've not placed 3 and 7 in the column. Ah, but we still can't disambiguate that by the looks of things. Slightly surprising. That can't be 5, so let's tidy up the pencil marks. 4, 8, 4, 8. Let's tidy up that pencil mark there. The 8 here is a little bit useful for tidying up row 2. We've now got a 4, 6 pair, so we can place the 1. 1 here, sorry, by the way. That's my bad. If the 4, 6 pair is there, we can eliminate 4, 6 from this square, not place a 1 in this square. That would be nonsense. That can't be 6. There's a 6 here already. It's still resisting, isn't it? Have I not used all of the... What have I not used? I've not used... this thermometer. Maybe this thermometer is the key. Let's look down this column. 1, 4, 7 and 9 into those squares in some order. That doesn't actually look too useful, does it? We've got a thermometer to play with though, so let's make sure we use... in fact, we know the 4 is in this quadruple, so we know that's not 4. We know this is not 9, because 9 can't be in the bulb of the thermometer. That is important. Look, this is why this thermometer's here. Because now we've got a 1, 7 pair in row 9. Good Lord. So that can't be 1 either. Let's just... Right, now let's try and use this. So we've now got to place 4, 8 and 9 into those squares. We can place the 8 by Sudoku. And the 4 and the 9. The 9, the 9 doesn't quite work, but now look at this column. We've not put a 1 in it. The 1 must go there. These 2 squares are a 1, 7 pair to complete the box, and I can see a few things as a result of that. One is there's a 1, 7 pair in row 8, which fixes that that's not a 7, but more interesting is that that square is a 9, which places the 9 in that box. This square now has to be 4 or 6 by the looks of things, and it's on a thermometer. Oh please, yes, it can't be 4. That's why this thermometer is here. If this is 4, you can't put anything in the bulb, so this is 6. It's a lovely puzzle, this, but I wouldn't describe it as easy at all. I don't think this is easy. This is intricate and beautiful. Okay, so let's just see if we can finish it off now with some sort of aplomb. We've got 1, 7 pairs all over the place. And what else have we got that's useful? This mustn't... I haven't actually filled in this square. That's probably not sensible. This has got to be 1, 8 or... in fact, it's got to be 1 or 9. 2, 8 here, 3, 7. Where does this fall? Where does this crack now? I think it must just be a little bit of Sudoku that I've not spotted. How long have I had? 28 minutes. It doesn't... It's flown by. It's this 8, isn't it? This 8. How long ago did I get this 8? I'm not sure. But that 8 fixes that one. That does the 2. That does the 2 and the 5 and the 9. That's nice. That gets me the 1, the 7. The thermometer comes into its own now. Fixes the 9, goes there. That should be a 4. The 1 and the 7 get fixed. This 1 and 7 get fixed. This 1, this 7, 7, 3, 3, 8. This is an 8, 9 pair. So that is, I think, the correct solution. Yes. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, jetalix. And not easy. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.